Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Monday, the start of another week, and the Premier League season is done and dusted. Now, I'll be honest with you, I've been sitting here for the last hour or so trying to sort of build up the not courage, that's the wrong word, just the energy, I think, just to do this episode today. I'm feeling pretty disappointed. I have to admit. I wasn't quite sure how I was going to feel going up to the game yesterday, because obviously I knew what was going to happen. Well, I didn't know, but you have that strong feeling what was going to happen. You know, it was very, very unlikely that Arsenal were going to end the season as title winners, given what was going to go on at Manchester City. But you still had that little bit of hope, and I was wondering, how am I going to feel at the end of this when it does go as we all expect it is probably going to go? And I was more disappointed than I thought I was going to be, because I thought I'd made peace with it. But I think it's just human nature, isn't it? You've always got that little bit of belief, that nagging bit of belief in the back of your mind that you're just thinking, you never know, it might just happen. But when it actually doesn't, and you know for sure that it's not going to happen, I was surprised just how disappointed I was. And I'm a bit hungover today as well. It was a really great day, to be honest, aside from obviously what happened. It was a really good day. Great. I saw so many of you guys as well. So many of you came up to me before the game, after the game, during the game. It was great to see all of you, and the mood around the stadium, especially pre-match, it was just fantastic. It really, really was. And it's just such a shame it didn't go the way we were all hoping it was going to. But it's been tough this morning to sort of build up the motivation to do this, because I just really don't want to talk about it too much. It's really, really affected me. But of course, we've got to do it. And it was a strange day. It was a strange day for everyone who's at the ground. I don't know what it was like watching it, but it was a strange one. I think the fact that City scored so early and the kind of belief went so early, you never really got into that mood or that mindset of, it's going to happen. West Ham might do us a favour, because, within 2 minutes or 1.5 minutes, Man City were 1-0 up. And so you kind of had to adjust to that. But I think that definitely impacted the game and the performance and even the atmosphere, because it was so good before game. The build up to it was, I've never heard the Emirates like it. And then within a minute and a half, you kind of felt that energy sapping mood go out of the crowd, and the players would have felt that, and they would have known something was going on in the Manchester City game early on. And I just think it impacted the game and impacted the performance. It was a strange one. I mean, Arsenal got the win, and that's all they needed to do. And I'm delighted they did get the win. I think that was really, really important. It would have been a real shame to end the season without getting the 3 points, and they did that with their late goal from Kai Havertz. I think that was probably handball. I'm surprised. I don't know. I was watching Match of the Day this morning, watching an analysis, and Shearer was saying he thinks it was a correct decision. And I don't know, if that had gone against Arsenal, I think I'd have been pretty disappointed. I'd have thought that's probably handball, but it's done and dusted now. But it was just good to get the win, I think, and to finish the season. I mean, 28 league wins out of 38 games, 28 league wins. It's been a remarkable campaign. Scored 91 goals, more than any other campaign in the Premier League. Conceded the few amounts of goals of anyone. Taken 21 points out of 90, or 24 points out of 30, against the big six. Just been so many good things about this season, so many good statistics about this season. But obviously the most important one, the one that we all wanted, was that Premier League trophy. And it wasn't to be, finishing 2 points behind Manchester City. And now it's a case of, what do you do? What do Arsenal do? And we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show, because Mikel Arteta was speaking about it after the game in terms of what Arsenal do. And he's targeting more, absolutely targeting more. And that was a message that he was very, very keen to send out when he was standing on the pitch talking to the crowd. It's what he sent out in the press conference as well. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show. But in terms of the match of a whole, there was lots to like about it. Seeing Jurgen Timber back was fantastic. The cheer he got when he came on was absolutely fantastic. And like I said, just getting the win, it just rounded off the season in a nice way. And I thought for Timber especially, I watched him on the pitch afterwards when they're doing the lap of appreciation. He was with his family, and for him, it was a big, big moment. I thought that was a nice way to end the season, was to seeing him back. I'm gonna go through my player ratings very, very briefly, but I have to admit, I wasn't paying that much attention to how players were performing. I wasn't in the press box. I was in the stand with my dad, and there was so much going on. There was so much emotion in the game. There was so much to focus on it in terms of what was happening elsewhere, that I didn't pay too much attention to how players really, really performed. So this is very rough in terms of what I gave them, and I'm sure plenty of you might disagree with it, and I know it always happens, but you got to, just take into account that I wasn't paying too much attention to it. But I thought, there was some decent enough performances. I thought Tomiyasu was a standout for Arsenal. He got his goal. I thought he played he played well. Tomiyasu with some other decent performances. I thought Odegaard as well. Obviously got two assists. Havertz led the line well. Got another goal once again. So Raya gave a 7, White 6, Saliba 7, Gabriel, real shame in terms of Gabriel's injury. We'll talk about that in a minute. Gave him a 6. Tomiyasu 8, Partey and Rice I both gave 6s. Odegaard 7, Martinelli 7, Havertz 7, and Trossard 5. I thought Trossard struggled over on the left-hand side. Martinelli was pretty bright on the right, but I think Arsenal definitely missed Saka. 100% missed Saka in that game, as you would. When he's not there, you really notice just how much of a threat he is, how much you always get the ball to him, how much the opposition team pay attention to him, and what space that creates for others. I thought it was very, very noticeable when Saka's not in that team, just how much Arsenal miss him. But those were my very, very brief and sketchy Arsenal player ratings. If you're going to disagree with them, by all means. But as I said, I wasn't paying overly too much attention in terms of exactly how the player's performance. As I said, Gabriel, is a real shame what happened to him. Got the injury. We don't know yet just how bad it is, but you could see after the game, there's a picture here if you're watching on YouTube, he's got his arm in a sling. Josh Kroenke came down and was consoling him afterwards. For Gabriel, you can see how disappointed he is and how looks very, very visibly upset there in the picture of him after the game. He's got a huge summer ahead of him, the Copa America with Brazil, which Brazil absolutely are targeting to win. And Gabriel was going to be a key part of that. He might still be, we don't know. But, if this is some sort of dislocation, Arsenal are certainly very worried about it. Gabriel's certainly very worried about it. That's why they've strapped him up and putting his arm in a sling to sort of limit any sort of further damage it might cause. But it looked a nasty one. You could see how upset he was. And now fingers crossed for him that, it's not too bad and he might still be able to play for Brazil in the Copa America. But tests will be being done as we speak. Probably today, the scan will be happening and we'll find out the true extent very, very soon of Gabriel's injury. But yeah, I thought that was a real shame, especially just watching him afterwards. After when he was walking around the pitch, you could see how upset he was because of what happened for Arsenal, but also in terms of what the summer might mean for him. So there it is. There's the final league table. So close and yet so far for Arsenal. 89 points. Only the Invincibles have got more. That was 1 point more in the Premier League era for Arsenal. 28 wins from 38 games. As I said, 91 goals scored. Fewest goals conceded. Best defence in the league. Unbeaten against City, Liverpool, Spurs, Chelsea, Man United. Still not enough to win it. The juggernaut that is Manchester City rolls on and claims another title success. 4 successive wins for them now. I think it's 6 wins in the last 7 years. There's lots of talk at the moment about the competitiveness of the Premier League and how damaging this is to the league as a brand. Look, I mean, it was competitive this season. For all yes, City have won it again. You can't say it wasn't competitive. It went to the very, very final day and Arsenal pushed City all the way this season. Not so much last season. They obviously fell away. That didn't happen this time. They pushed them all the way. Mikel asked about it in the press conference afterwards where the game was lost. He understandably pointed at the Villa game because that was the one single defeat in 2024 for Arsenal. And, he said that first half, it could have been 4-0. Didn't take the chances, got punished for it in the second half. And I saw Rodri's comments today. And I don't know, I'm looking at him. Obviously, they're being clipped up and sent all over social media. Rodri slams Arsenal. Rodri hammers Arsenal and things like that. I don't really think it was like that, what he was saying. And he did praise Arsenal a lot in that and said, they could easily be in the champions. They pushed us all the way this season. And he said that the 0-0 draw, he said that we saw it. I don't think they wanted to beat us. That was what he said. And I just think that was rubbish. I thought Arsenal went there with a game plan. They played it very, very well. And had they taken the moments that arose going forward, they could have easily won that game. You think right at the end there, 85 minutes, Trossard goes through, miscontrols his touch. If he got a better touch, he rolls it across to Gabriel Martinelli. He's got a clear shot on goal 12 yards out with no one around him. So it was really, really fine margins. I don't think there's no way I look back at that game as the Etihad as the moment Arsenal failed to win the league or didn't win the league. Obviously, the Villa game was really, really painful, but it's the first half of the season for me. The game, 1 point from Fulham out of 6, no points from Villa out of 6. 1 point from 12 points. For 1 point from 12, a possible 12 against Fulham and Aston Villa. That's where Arsenal won the league, not holding this brilliant Manchester City team to a 0-0 draw at the Etihad. Right, we'll talk about Mikel Arteta now and what he had to say. He obviously gave a speech afterwards on the pitch. Martin Odegaard gave one as well. And then Arteta went in and did his press conference. And, the message was very, very clear from Mikel afterwards. We saw, and I spoke about it in yesterday's show pre-match, Josh Kroenke came out and he he spoke at length in the programme with his message to the fans, and he made a pledge in terms of whatever happens today, we're going to go again next season. We're going to continue to grow, and I thought those were really good words to see from the owner pre-match ahead of the game. And I thought Arteta just continued on that theme. He very much targeted more. This is what he had to say, or part of what he had to say on the pitch to the fans. He said, all this is happening because you, the fans, started believing. You started to be patient. You started to understand what we're trying to do. And all the credit has to go to these amazing players and the staff that are unbelievable. I think now it's time to have a break, think, reflect, and please keep pushing, keep inspiring this team. Don't be satisfied, because we want much more than that, and we're going to get it. Thank you very much. That last line was a really, really important one. Saying don't be satisfied. And look, no Arsenal fans can be satisfied with finishing second. I'm certainly not satisfied. I thought this has been a brilliant season. I love this team. One game, one result. That was all it was. But I'm not satisfied about that. I want Arsenal to be lifting the Premier League title. This team is good enough to be winning the Premier League title, and they'd have been worthy champions had they won it this season. Any other era, pretty much, they would have won it. They would have won it with weeks to spare. You could have said that from the last season as well, but we're not in any other era. We're now in the Manchester City era. And you know what standards you have to set if you're going to win it at this point. And it's very, very hard. It must be very, very demoralising. You saw how upset the players were on the pitch afterwards. It's like, what more can we do? We've won 28 games out of 38. We've conceded the fewest amount of goals. We've scored the club record amount of goals in the season, and we've still not won it. We've been unbeaten against Man City this season. We've still not won it. It must be really, really demoralising to think we've got to come back next season and do it all over again for 10 months to push them all the way. It must be really demoralising. But when you've got someone like Arteta in charge, I think that's really, really important, because he's not going to be satisfied. He will immediately go away. Yes, he'll have a break with his family. He'll have some downtime, but he'll come back and he will be straight planning for next season. Well, it's already started, and will be demanding more, and he is targeting more. And that was the message he sent yesterday. And I'm sure that all the fans around me, no one's satisfied with what's happening. I see lots of people saying, oh, Arsenal fans stayed behind and applauded the team, applauded failure, which is rubbish. It's just absolute rubbish. The Arsenal fans were appreciating what this team have given them this season. They've given them absolutely everything. It wasn't enough, but they've given absolutely everything. And that is the bet. That's the minimum you can ask from your team. But I do think that this team will win something, and win something very, very big. They're good enough to, and they're going to get it. I'm absolutely sure of it. And Arteta says don't be satisfied, and that they want much more than that. The fans definitely want much more than that, and I'm sure it will happen. In terms of his emotion at the end of the season, he said, first of all, congratulations to Man City for winning the Premier League. It's unbelievable what they've done since December. We've been on an incredible journey with every performance that's been at the highest level we have seen, and it still wasn't enough. This is the level. Today, it's mixed emotions. First of all, really proud of those players, the staff. They've done an incredible job. They've pushed every limit, every margin that we could find to try and win this Premier League. And unfortunately, it was a bit short. We could not deliver the big prize that we wanted. You can feel it, that they are desperate for it. I'm taking things to the next level. Mikel said, it's the only way. So now we're sitting there, and they took it away from us. It is the second season, so there's only one way to do it. You have to be more determined. You have to be more ambitious. You need to have a lot of courage and push every limit and everything that we have, because that is the next step. There is no other step for Arsenal. They are right there. They've been there, right there for 2 seasons now. The next step is just to win it. And as Mikel says, to win it against Man City, and not even just Man City, to win it against Pep Guardiola, because let's face it, Pep Guardiola is a difference here. I'm absolutely sure Guardiola leaves Man City, this era of dominance, even with their unlimited money and the huge resources that they have, is not going to be the same. Guardiola is the difference. He's the best in the world, and he is the difference. And to try and match him and match his teams, you have to be so ambitious, and Arsenal have been. And I think they're going to be again. That was the message Mikel Arteta sent out yesterday. That was the message Josh Kroenke sent out before the game yesterday. And I'm absolutely sure that come the start of next season, we're going to have seen Arsenal be really, really ambitious again to try and close that gap. Not just about spending money to bring new signings in, but being ambitious in terms of raising the level of the players that they have as well, which is really, really important. We've seen those players go up to another level. Certainly a lot of them go up to another level this season. Saliba's improved. Gabriel's improved. Declan Rice has been sensational since he's come to Arsenal and has improved and developed more into his game. Martin Odegaard has gone up another level with Arsenal, and now it's about other players who maybe have dipped a little bit. Gabriel Martinelli, for example, getting them back to the level that they can be. So it's not just about signing players. That's not what the ambitious target. The only part the ambitious target is going to be is about being ambitious to get more out of this current group of players as well. On the plans for the summer transfer window, Mikel said rest, have a beautiful holiday, and he deserves it. The players deserve it as well. That's what we need to do first, because everybody put every single drop of energy and passion that we have had, and now we need to rest while we decompress and rest and think. We will have to start. Think we will have to start to think with more clarity. Now, Mikel is really, when his season finished, last couple of seasons, he's gone straight away with his family. He loves going over to Spain, spending time with his sister. I'm sure he's going to do that again this summer, and then he'll come back and the work will start. And it will start very, very soon. In terms of what the plans are that are in motion right now, in terms of the summer and the potential window of new signings, he says the first one and most important is how we're going to get these players to a different level. That's my first job. After that, visualizing that we still don't have enough to do that for sure, and we're going to have to do everything we can to fill those gaps. Now, we all know the sort of areas that Arsenal are going to look to improve in the transfer window. We can see the areas of the squad that needs improving. We can see potential players that probably the time is right to move them on so that other players can come in that Mikel clearly will trust a little bit more to improve this squad and to give him more options off the bench when he needs it throughout the season. And, you know, we know it, they know what the targets are, and it's going to start. I don't want to talk too much about transfers at the moment because I just can't really get my head around it at the moment. I don't want to think too much about the transfer window. I'm still trying to sort of assess in my head what's happened at the end of this season before looking at the transfer window. But obviously, it's hugely important, and Arsenal will go hard in the transfer window to try and make a difference and to bridge this gap. And I'm sure it will happen very, very soon. But that's about it for today. I've rambled. I know I've rambled in this one. A, like I said, I'm very hungover. But B, I just think it's hard. I haven't quite got this season in my head yet, I don't think, in terms of how I view it and how I'm feeling about it. All I know, and I've said it yesterday, is that from a fan point of view, I've waited 20 years to have a football team like this, to follow a football team like this, to have a connection with players like I have with the connection that this team has now with the fans. So I've waited an awful long time for it. I'm really, really disappointed. I'm sure everyone's disappointed, and I'm not going to tell fans how they should be feeling about their team, because each to their own. But like I said, I've waited a long time, and I love this team, and I've loved what they've given us this season. So many good moments, so many big wins, so many big performances. And I'm utterly convinced that something very, very big is just around the corner for this team and this football club. And I think for me, that's the biggest takeaway from this season. It's certainly how I'm feeling right now. Anyway, it might change, but that's how I'm feeling right now. All right, that's it from me, everyone. Thank you very much for your time. I really do appreciate it. I think I'm going to do different few things over the next sort of week or so in terms of rounding up the season. I think I'm going to do my player ratings for the season. I think I'm going to give out my end of season Charles Watts Awards, the most important award show, remember, of any awards. Forget Football Writers Player of the Year. Forget the Premier League Player of the Year. The Charles Watts Football Awards. That's the one they all want to win, believe me. So I think I'll do that sort of thing. And I've got the usual shows coming up this week as well with James Benge, the Extra Time episode as well. So let me know how you view the season in the comments below. I'll pull some of those together for shows that I'll do throughout the week as well. Have a very good Monday. Don't be too disappointed. I'll speak to you very, very soon. See ya. Bye-bye.